We now have a few minutes when we could entertain some questions from the audience or comments. If anybody would like to ask a question or make a comment.
I just want to give you all
There's a John Quinlan's will bring a mic to your table.
just a brief opportunity if you have some observations. I know many of you have been sharing your thoughts about Senator McGovern's role in your own lives and becoming politically active and being inspired. So you have just a few things. I just wanted to share one thing I was telling Susan about that I thought was just especially evocative of his civility and his ability, as Congressman Obey was talking about, of an era when we reached across lines. But in addition to working with Senator Dole so carefully on hunger issues, at the time of Patricia Nixon's death, he was one of the few Democrats who attended the service, and that was something that meant a great deal to President Nixon. And of course, what a model of reconciliation and forgiveness and moving past and recognizing us all as human beings. Just the reason I had mentioned Tia Nelson, who had to leave us a little earlier, I just wanted to bring in the memory of her father, Senator Gaylord Nelson. Bill Christopherson was also nice enough to share some memories, but we want to think of him today. They were not only neighbors in the Senate, they chose seats next to each other and retained those seats over all the years, but they're also neighbors in Chevy Chase, and so families grew up together. And I know it's been a great pleasure for us in Wisconsin to be able to remember Senator Nelson's memory in conjunction with all this. Someone also very important to Congressman Obey and to Tammy and to other folks. And yes.
And you can read more about that from Bill's book, The Man from Clear Lake, right, Bill?
That's right.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story about his sense of humor. I thought he had an absolutely wonderful sense of humor. Is that better? Oh, I'm not used to this. Okay. So, 33 years after the election, in 2005, he came to the Union Theater, the Memorial Union, to make a speech. I think it was the Robert Kastenmeier lecture. Anyway, I wore the shirt from the 72 campaign because I did work on his campaign. And I met him afterwards, and Susan and other members of the family, Bob Kastenmeier and Gates were there. Well, it was so exciting, and he looked at my shirt, and he had a tie and a dress shirt on. And he unbuttoned the shirt to show me his t-shirt. And you know what? It said McGovern on it.
Just one other nice thing to point out, Bill Dunn, who's sitting at the front table here, was nice enough to produce a special memento, I guess one of the only known bobbleheads with George McGovern's face and a Cardinals. For those of you who are also looking for more interesting stories and other things, I encourage you to go to the C-SPAN website where there are some wonderful stories, including Jim's eulogy, which talks about their shared love of the Cardinals and many other personal items. Is there anyone else who'd like to put a word in? Yes, go ahead, Bill.
Speaking of Robert Kastenmeier.
Okay, I just wanted to, there you go.
Now you make me regret I didn't wear my Tammy Baldwin for I
have one. Is there anyone else who'd like to word? All right, thank you very much. Yes.
Good afternoon. I just would like to say that I had the pleasure of speaking to George McGovern. Susan invited me over. I had a conversation a couple of years ago with him. And I asked him very pointed questions about his feelings about war and the military. And in my opinion, George would say we have to stop the drone killing. And we have to live by the rule of law. And as you know, the United Nations has come out with studies saying that the drone killing is in violation of the rule of law. And I think he would be in favor of the sequestration as it is applied to military spending, because the military spending is too big. It's doubled in the last 12 years, and I'm absolutely positive he would say, let's not cut government spending. Let's move military spending to human needs, and that's what he would be focusing on. So that's my reflections from that conversation I was so lucky to have with him a couple of years ago.
Okay, one more.
I come from a family of Tea Partiers, but I was smart enough to vote for George McGovern when I was a sophomore in college, and he was wonderful. And I got to meet him because of Susan at a conference a couple of years back that she mentioned. And she was nice enough to say that I write a lot of letters to the editor, and he was gracious enough to kind of go on about, well, that's the most important part of the paper. Everybody reads them, and it was just really gracious of him. And let's all get out there and write letters and make a difference in the world.
Just very briefly, I wanted to invite you all here on behalf of the Wisconsin Division, where I'm the current president, succeeding Susan. But I also want to encourage you, someone had mentioned Googling a number of things. Please check out the websites of our UNA Dane chapter in Milwaukee, the Wisconsin Division. We have some really valuable programs we bring to the different communities. We really welcome all of you from coming from many different places, and we hope you'll become involved with us in time to come. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Just a few items in closing to pick up where John left off. At each of the places underneath your program, there was a pamphlet where you could sign up to become a member of the United Nations Association. It's a narrow pamphlet, so we'd welcome everybody to become members of the United Nations Association. And if you want to talk to somebody about it, I wonder if the board members of the Dane County UNA would stand up, and then you'll know who to talk to. Board members. There's still some books, I think, for sale down there, so you might want to go down there afterwards. The video is still showing. The flowers on the tables were donated by Trader Joe's, and you can duke it out with your friends on who gets to take home the pot of flowers in the middle of your table. But you're welcome to decide that amongst yourselves cooperatively and peacefully, the way George McGovern would like you to do it. And Joanne Elder will come up and announce the winners of the silent auction. Not only before she does that, I want to thank Joanne for organizing the silent auction. She always does a fabulous job.
Thanks to all the contributors. It was a lot of fun. If you want to buzz by the tables and rebid somebody out of it, you're welcome to.
With that, I think we are finished, and I'll wish you a safe travels home, and thank you everybody for coming.
Statewide appearances like that, like the president. I don't know if we're going to do like town hall meetings or that, but she'll be in every single state. Very good. For sure.
Nice meeting you.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to turn my sheet over, so if you've made a bid, it's probably yours. So come over and get the rest.